looking for hope in a world that has lied to you about who you really are. Wrong woman, holding in story she needs to tell what God really wants you to do in this world. In his name, hope to break free from the shackles and the lies that have become your truth and put blinders on your eyes.
Welcome to Staci Speaks Hope, the podcast that explores the lies that have kept your little girl bound. We trust the truth of God's word to offset the lies. I'm your host, Dr. Staci. When I think of how I felt when I first saw this picture of that weeping, sobbing little girl looking at the mirror back at the adult woman's reflection, she looked all put together, but it struck a chord in my heart. How do you feel when you see that picture? I've shown it to many people and they got it. Men, women, all races. If you felt like that, I want to share something with you today that I believe is a Holy Spirit deposit to help you manage that. Welcome back. It's Dr. Staci. In my first episode, I asked the question, what would you do if you saw a little girl crying and you realized that little girl was you? I offer you today a way to console her, something to remind you if you've been on this journey with us. Maybe it's a chance to revisit that and think about it and see how you've been consoling her, how you've gotten to know her. You have a chance now to walk through this with the No More Lies guided workbook and healing journal. And you can order it by clicking the link because it's very intentional how we start this process to remember who we were, who our little girl was before the lies, before things started to shift and we started to question and we had to take care of ourselves or protect ourselves or stand up for ourselves. And so today, in this conversation that I hope you respond to with your comments, what are some things you've told your little girl to console her when she's weeping and crying, when you feel like that inside, but you have to present like you got it all together? For me, I know, and as I look, the deeper I look, the more things God has allowed me to see, because it's not just that I found out, because I knew when I started this podcast that it was rejection, and it was from a time when I was in elementary school, and something else after, more rejection after that in a different setting. So then it became my self-defense mechanism to first believe that just being me was not going to be received, loved, and accepted. So then I had to be tough. I had to be alone. I might have believed in that without saying those words, that I was unlovable. I was always feeling like the outsider. And I did move multiple times in my school years and since, and that's probably part of why moving isn't a big deal to me, because I've always moved. And I show up in places like, hey, here I am, I'm new. Are you gonna like me? Are you gonna fight me? So I'm halfway open, and because that's who I am naturally. And then I'm also, all right, I'm not gonna let you hurt me. I'm not gonna let you bully me. I'm not gonna let you make me feel bad about myself, which nobody can do unless you let them. But if you believe inside that maybe who you are isn't acceptable or lovable or good enough. You can become a chameleon and a people pleaser. You can be different things to different people just so in that moment you get that dopamine hit of, oh yeah, I'm accepted. Oh yeah, they like me. Oh yeah, they love me. And so the message at the core of what I want to share with you today is how important it is, number one, to remember who you were before. And it's not something you can probably do of your own flesh. If you rely and present it to the Holy Spirit, who knew you, God who knew you from your mother's womb, can show you the essence of your heart before it was tainted, before something happened, before it was shaken, before you were, as I say, rocked to your core by something that happened that was so unsuspected, so uncomfortable, so unfamiliar to what it felt like to just be okay, to be safe, to be loved. And if you never got to feel that, this is an opportunity to cultivate what it would be like in your adult self. Find out who you were. Find out what that lie was. Because knowing what that lie is helps you manage the healing for that lie and the layers attached to that lie and the adult reflections of that are so embedded into every fiber of our being. We don't know when it's on and when it's off after decades of rehearsing that lie, even in church, even in work, even in the mirror with ourselves. How many people don't like to see their own reflection or their own picture on the Zoom meetings? That brought out a lot of pain for people who would hide their face or turn off their camera because they just didn't want to see themselves, because something inside said, when I look at myself, I don't like what I see. I don't like how that makes me feel. Imagine what it's like not to feel that way. If you don't remember, imagine. Your brain doesn't actually know the difference. So create that space, create that image of yourself where you're loved, where you're safe, where just being you is enough. It always was in the sight of God. But things that show up in our daily existence cause us to hang on to that lie more than the actual truth because it's more familiar. It's more well rehearsed and practiced. Because the point of knowing who you were before, knowing the lie, is to surrender it. Because the reality is, the longer, the closer, the more tightly we hold on to the lie, we are actually rejecting the wholeness and the identity and the love that God has for us. We don't ever want to walk around thinking about, I'm rejecting love from anybody, let alone our Creator. But we do. And we do it because we had to protect ourselves. And when you're in that high energy, high cortisol, stressed out, fight or flight mode, we might fight somebody who's trying to hug us because they're too close, because the fear factor is so great and the wall for that is so high that I'm going to swing first and look later. I'm going to run away. I'm going to hide. I'm going to think negative thoughts about people who maybe didn't even say the things to us that the way we heard them. Our hearts take over from a place of fear instead of a place of love, expecting that actions toward us are negative when maybe they aren't. So in our pursuit of wholeness, in our finding our true identity that comes from the one who created us, we have to be able to identify the lie and the layers of the lie and the responses to the lie significantly enough, with enough detail, with enough precision, that as we go through our layers and steps of healing, we get healed in one area and we see, oh, it crops up here too, and here. And because we've created this narrative of being sarcastic or being judgmental or being hypocritical, looking at people, pretending we're nice and inside thinking that we don't like them, or really because we think they don't like us, being inconsistent in how we represent ourselves because we haven't remembered or found or loved or developed or listened to really our authentic selves. This is a chance to be free, to be whole, to feel safe, to be safe, to know we're safe and loved and provided for. The weight that gets lifted off of our shoulders that affects our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health, and mostly our spiritual health depends on us knowing what we're dealing with to be able to give it away and receive in its place what was created for us, that which was our original design, our original plan for being, for knowing, for loving, for doing, for interacting with others. So we go through these steps, asking the hard questions. Do I remember what made me smile? What made me happy? I'm giving you a peek into some of the pages that are in the No More Lies workbook because God showed them to me, and I can't help but be excited about passing them on to you. So as you are able to step back from the high cortisol, I got to defend and protect myself energy, and the level and the physical drain and toll that it takes on us, to be curious enough to ask that question. There are pictures of little girls smiling throughout the book in those early stages so that you can see and envision. And what's your image of yourself look like? It's not an image of me, it's just an image of a little girl smiling. And if you can grasp that and apply it, that at some point, somewhere in your life, babies come out smiling. So you smiled even in your early days. If you feel like that's never happened, my heart goes out to you because I know how painful that has to be. And my heart's desire in sharing all of this is that we get free from that pain that drains us, that has us walking around in this cloak of unlovability. It makes us reject and be objectionable to things that are coming toward us without fully seeing, knowing, and experiencing the true interaction. There had to have been times in everybody's life where you did need to protect yourself from people. And maybe you were able to, and maybe you weren't. Maybe you feel guilty that you weren't. As a little girl, you did the best you could. You did all that you knew to do. Maybe it was safer to be silent and not fight back. Maybe fighting back caused worse repercussions. I think I experienced that. And sometimes, and other times, I was like, I don't care who it is, I'm going to fight back. And even if they weren't even trying to fight me, I carried that intensity and that energy and that aggression into spaces where it didn't happen. It worked, I guess. But I also don't know who I didn't get to meet, who I didn't get to be friends with, who I didn't get to hang out with, who I didn't get to fall in love with. I don't even know. And so I offer this to you as you are in your journey, whatever step you're on. There's a cost to holding on to nurturing, to replaying, to revising, to adding on to the lie. We build it up and we make it more, we make it stronger. We apply it in situations that were not the original situation. at the different stages of our lives, in our elementary age, and then our adolescent age, and then preteens, and high school and middle school and college and after college and in marriage and in work situations. If our natural response is to be defending ourselves, we come across defensive. When if I do that and my heart is as soft and mushy and ooey gooey as I know it to be, I know I've done that because it just was too much to process the hurt that I couldn't explain, I didn't understand when I was a little girl. If that's happened to you, it's time to use your adult lens and wisdom and reasoning to look at those things and elevate the thinking, bring it up to what you see, know, and understand to be a way to manage life now, today, from this perspective, and by asking God to give you clarity and asking Him to help your heart heal, because those wounds are deep. It's like the fissures in our brain, that they're like caverns in our organs, and the impact is so great that it takes an excavation team called you submitting to God, to the Holy Spirit, to reading the Word, to learning and being around people who can teach you and love you and show you another way to be. It doesn't have to be just you on your own. Again, it goes back to, are you able to receive the love to even heal? The love and the nurturing and the outside voices to help you consider new ways to grow. Nobody can just flat out tell you how to be different. As a life coach, I help people answer the questions. I ask questions that maybe they didn't think to answer, but I help them to create time and space to answer the questions. As I have worked with clients, that's been the thing of just asking questions where they say they're stuck, there's a block. And if that block wasn't there, what would you do? What would it have been like? What would you want? What would it be? What can you make it be today? I do that in my own life as I envision growing this community and touching the lives of the people that God has sent me to speak to. I envision that coming together because I know this kind of hurt is universal. I know this kind of hurt is not unique to the few of us that I've communicated with, the people that see me and say, wow, that was really on point. I would love it if you'd put a comment in the chat because it brings the community into having a voice. Share this with people who you know or see or believe have some of these same feelings. We need each other to know that, first of all, it's not just me. I'm not weird. It's not just me. I'm the one that nobody likes. That's a lie. That's a lie. Now we're telling ourselves on top of the lie of there were people who didn't know how to take care of me and I got hurt when I was little. Or let things happen to me because they didn't know how to be present because of their own hurt. There becomes a sequence, and then we can be curious about even those that harmed us. Why were those girls so angry with me because of the way I talked? It wasn't even what I said. Why did those boys look at me and start cussing at me when I was on the other side of a fence playing happily by myself? I have to remember, I was happily playing by myself. I wasn't sad because I was playing by myself. I was content. Have I lost that contentment from that situation that I can't be content in my life now? That can't be true. And if it is, I have to reclaim and replace and heal the message that I've had to replay to myself. It only happened once. And if I'm still believing it, still acting on it, still filtering every interaction I have through that lens, that means I am still telling that same lie. I'm still replaying that same story. I've added on to the story. I've added sentences to make paragraphs, to make multiple paragraphs, to make essays, to make chapters, to make a book, all based on a lie. If we know the truth will set us free. The truth is we are loved. The truth is we were always loved. The truth is we were valuable enough to the Creator that He sent His Son to come walk with us and show us how to be and to take our place for the penalty of being in this flesh that is in conflict and in sin against the holy God. We have to use the wisdom of our years, even if we're a teenager. There's some things we have to know now that we didn't know when we were single digits. And so I speak to women of all ages because women have so many extra layers added by societal norms and expectations of how we need to look, how we need to behave, how we need to show up, what we need to do, what we don't need to do. That there's a lot less grace that is extended to us, and consequently, we give each other. And most of all, that's a reflection of what we give ourselves. If we are harsh with others, we are undoubtedly harsh with ourselves. If we are shamed, if we shame others in our communication, we shame ourselves in our internal voice. How do we get set free of these radically destructive mindsets, behaviors, beliefs, stories that result in actions that take us into places and spaces that are harmful and counter to the design of Holy God who created us to be in the space of love. The image of God is love. All the other stuff that gets added to it by man to manipulate, dominate, and control behaviors has to be clear to us, has to be evident so that when it starts to come, I see you coming. You're not going to get me. I'm not going to be caught blindsided or off guard because I didn't know. The more you hear, the more you see, the more you seek God to show you yourself, the more you will know. And the less surprises you will have about who you are when somebody else comes along to tell you otherwise or to treat you otherwise. It doesn't even require a response. There's no fight back. There's no get back if you already know. There's a fight if you are still trying to prove to yourself and think you have to prove to others. Others will see. When you walk in the wholeness, when you walk in the integrity and the alignment of who you were created to be. So you got to know who you were before. You got to know what the lie is. And most of all, you have to ask God to show you the truth that's the offset to that lie. So when you get into the story of what we say to ourselves, to others, that we act in a way that is a protective shield when there's nothing to be protected from, that's exhausting. That's a waste of energy. We can be more available. Our hearts can be more open to shed the lies. It is an act of our will to pursue with every fiber of our being, our wholeness, our healing, our wellness, mentally, emotionally, that are a result of what's happening spiritually. If we don't make a conscious decision to move in that way, we're tossed by the winds and the whims because everything that validates us, everything that moves us, everything that assures us or discourages us comes from the outside. That's not what we were made for. That is not what was our best, the gift that was given us in life. was being able to walk in peace and in wholeness. Going back to the garden, to be naked and unashamed is the perfect exemplification of the level of peace, because nobody feels good, would feel safe if you were not whole enough inside to walk around naked and be unashamed. We don't want to look at ourselves in a mirror. I know there's people who have a lifestyle like that, which is why I paused and a thought came to me. And I don't know if they're watching this podcast or not, and maybe they have that part down. But for the rest of us, for the majority of everybody I know, we had to walk outside naked, we would feel some kind of way, whether it's shame. Shame about what? Shame is an emotion tied to thinking we're supposed to be something else. Actually, how can that even be? How can that be true? How can that be real? I don't know. But as we challenge ourselves to go deeper, as we challenge ourselves to present our bodies as a living sacrifice so that God can really show us what's acceptable, that's a renewing of our minds thing. That's Romans 12, 1 and 2. We can't renew our minds as long as we hold on to a lie that we're going to hang on to and fight for and defend against being the truth. The more absolute we make things in our life is a sign of a fear and a brokenness that we're not even open that things could be different than we thought they were. Not even willing to consider that it doesn't have to be just the way I say. And these are things that are preferences, our opinions that we impose on other people. We have our tenets for the way we live our lives. We have our absolutes. We have our belief systems that are rooted in our faith. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about being open to hear another person's way of doing things. We all don't arrive, even in our walk with the Lord, through the same steps. If we're unable and unwilling to let people go through what God is leading them, in the way He is leading them. And sometimes going off track is part of, we know, has been part of all of our leading. We didn't just wake up and serve God perfectly, because there's no such thing in our flesh. And as we seek to be more like Him, seek to be a greater reflection of who God is in the earth, there's less of us that we can hold on to. As we surrender, as we let go of, as we see that there's a different way than I thought I was, because I was 7. Well, of course I didn't know. But for me to be the age that I am, almost 62, to still think like a 7-year-old, to still react like a 7-year-old, whether I cover it better because I'm older, whether I feel like a 7-year-old inside, when I feel like I'm being attacked, that's where I've got to do my work. That's where I do my work. That's where you do your work. And I give you that as a real-time example, so that as you pick up this journal, as you pick up these questions, and you look at yourself through the lens of, how do I really get free? How do I really let go of that lie? Do I really find the truth? Not according to my terms, not according to your terms, but according to what God reveals to you for you, because He was there through it all. He was there before whatever happened that planted the seed of the lie. He was there with you as that lie was buried and watered and nurtured by other lies or other reactions in that self-defense mechanism, in that self-defense mode. So the real challenge is knowing what we're presenting, and knowing that, just like that seed, if a seed grows into a tree, you could take the fruit off the branches, but the tree's still there. That's one part of it that gets removed. If, say, it's a poisonous fruit, you could take the leaves off, but the branches are still there. The branches are still there. Well, the bark is still there. Take the bark off. There's still a root system that goes down and spreads out into the earth. So when you think of healing, don't think it's a one and done. Don't think it's an absolute. Don't think it's a something that you can do overnight. It takes layers of seeking and stripping of things that you didn't see because they were covered by something bigger. But as we get down to the part of the essence of the nugget of healing our hearts, we know that there's got to be some steps and that there's a continued act of our will, a continued action of surrender, a continued hunger for going after, Lord, let my mind be like yours. Give me the mind of Christ. Give me the mind of the Father, because the Father and the Son have the same mind. We are the sons of daughter and daughters of God. We are the sons of God, the offspring made in the image. Christ is our brother. He told us that, and he promised us we would do greater things. We can do those things by taking on the mind of the Father, the Creator, that didn't create us broken, didn't create us in this false belief of who we see ourselves and how we show up and how we respond to and treat others. So this is our chance to take those steps. The work is internal and the reflection becomes external, just like the hurt was internal. Because it was so long ago, it might be deep down in there. And just like a wound has a scab on the outside, it's still healing inside underneath. We have the privilege and the opportunity to choose to be healed, to choose to renew the way we think, the way we see, the way we react, and the way we feel about God's creation, about God's kid. People joke that I'm his favorite and he don't make no junk. If we can see ourselves like that, then we can avail ourselves to, Daddy, help me, Abba, Father, Baba, as they say in the African language. How do we yield and surrender those things that we've held on to with all our might that aren't in alignment, that aren't in truth, that make us be who we are today, how we show up, what we do, what we think, what we say? That's just simply not real. So we rejoice in this opportunity. And I am so excited for those that are coming onto this journey and will come, because I pray for every person that's supposed to hear this message, real time or in the future. The conversations that I am inviting you to come be my guest, to just talk about your journey, talk about your curiosity. What questions do you have about finding your little girl? What do you do if you don't remember her? What do you do if she's still hiding from you? How do you get to the nugget that is the lie? Maybe you can't quite figure that out. Put your question in, send a message to me. You can DM me on Instagram, Staci Speaks Hope. You'll find me there. And let's talk. I want your voices to be part of this conversation. I'm open to share, to hear, to experience this journey together. So thank you so much for being courageous enough to hear these things that are tough, to consider these things that would be better left as they are, untouched. But it's time. God has sent you here. You're here for this message because this message is from God's heart to yours. I humbly get to be the vessel. It brings tears to my eyes when I think about that. And at the same time, get blessed to experience my own layers and depths of healing even greater. Thank you so much for trusting this walk that we can go on together. I look forward to seeing your comments. I look forward to getting your messages. If you don't want to put it in the comment that's too public, send the message to me on social media. If you have Instagram. Again, it's at Staci Speaks Hope, Staci with an I. And we're going to do this. I'm excited and I trust God. Be blessed.
Thank you for watching Staci Speaks Hope. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. To schedule a free coaching call, the link is in the description.
Grown woman, holding in story she needs to tell what God really wants you to do in this world. In His name, hope to break free from the shackles and the lies that have become your truth and put blinders on your eyes. You built walls around your heart. You have plugged up your ears. Get freedom to hope's what you need. It's in reach. Wipe your tears.